Welcome to the Peyton Randolph house, noted by USA Today as one of the most haunted locations on the eastern seaboard, and one of the most haunted locations in the entirety of the United States. Constructed in 1715 and quickly purchased by John Randolph, he ended up purchasing the eastern lot also. He willed it to his son, Peyton Randolph, for who of course the house is named. His wife, Miss Randolph, happened to have a slave here, Eve. Lord Dunmore promised the slaves in Williamsburg that were they to support the cause, they would be freed after the war. Of course, the tides didn't go this way, and once she was back in the home, Eve was quite severely abused by Mrs. Randolph. Eventually, she was sold, separating her permanently from her son. In 1824, a century later, Marquis de Lafayette was one of the many patrons to bless this home. When he entered the foyer, he felt a grip on his shoulder, but when he turned, he didn't see a single soul there. Of course, he stayed at the home and claimed that his stay was far from restful. During the night, he heard many voices, and while he was honored to stay in the home of Peyton Randolph, who was also the cousin of Thomas Jefferson and the president of the First and Second Continental Congresses, he was very weary about the experience. The original owners of the home, Peyton and his wife, were interesting indeed. Peyton even being knighted, the only resident of West Virginia to be knighted. Perhaps such ancient practices are what creates the turmoil in these walls. A security guard that stayed here claimed that he had experienced the hauntings. He had heard several voices and sounds around the home and eventually was trapped inside the basement when he was investigating it one evening. He was freed, but given quite a fright. A woman that stayed here happened to hear voices throughout her living time in the eastern section of the home. When she passed away, a fire alarm suddenly went off. Although there was no one when it was investigated, and security had to break into the home, they didn't see anyone there, and the fire extinguisher was placed directly in the center of the room. No footprints were seen, but the pin was pulled and the contents of the extinguisher were everywhere. Even in 1960, it was used as a dorm for William and Mary. Interestingly enough, one of the young males that stayed here claimed that he also experienced such things, voices and sounds of the like, and then one night his bed was violently shaken. He quickly left the home, not gathering a single one of his possessions. Many odd occurrences continue to this day. 6 different tourists with EMF detectors suddenly lost all battery power when the history of the home was discussed. This has happened with cell phones and other electronics as well. Even more frightening, some guests have even fainted in the house and medical services had to be called. Spirit boxes are one of the many tools we use to detect these beings. No matter what, the spirit has always told the patrons to leave, and even shouted vile insults at one of our tour guides. You can find some of the details about this on our website and YouTube page. There are also different other articles describing the odd occurrences in this home. But for now, all we know is that it is restless. There are 2 Indian graves underneath the home, and many more that were disturbed. In the 1930s, pottery was dug up and other indications of a gravesite. Perhaps this is why, and where, these spirits have lingered for so long. A disturbed gravesite can always lead to paranormal evidence.